Alright, so I'm now going to go over how to calculate area by simple figures. So they're taking the figure 26,4 and they're trying to separate it out into simple figures, either making them a trapezoid using an area of a triangle or area of a rectangle. So they're trying to break it out into shapes that we are familiar with. So just to give you an example, they did the area of, they called it D0, C prime, and C. So they're using the area of a trapezoid. So they're calling this your base 1, the 18 as your base 2, and 20 as your height. So I'm going to scroll down and show you where they did that. So if you said area equals base 1, 18, plus the base 2, which is 15.8, times 2, and then divide that by 2. And this is how I would have wrote it. I do it like base 1 plus base 2 divided by 2 times your height. So if I did 18 plus 15.8 divided by 2, so you're taking an average of those two areas times your height of 20. And I got 338. Same thing they got. Alright, then they go back and they're going to use a triangle for the part that is C, C prime, and L. So they're using like area equals 1/2 base times height. So for their base, they're using 15.8. And for their height, they're using the difference between the 38.8 and the 20. That means there's 13.8 feet from here to here. So if I would put that in, area equals 1/2 base times height, 1/2 and 15.8 times the 13.8. So if I do 15.8 times 13.8 and divide that by 2, that gives me 109.02. And that's square feet. So it's just breaking it down into smaller portions, and then you can add them all together to get your area. So that would be another way that you could solve something. And then the third way, and that's what you call by end area or simple figures. The third way is by coordinates. So back in chapter 12, we went over how to do coordinates. So I'm starting right here. Coordinates for each point have to be calculated. And then when we do, we can do diagonals and downward to the right and downward to the left. So I'll explain that in just a minute. So what they did is they took this same simple figure, and I'm going to go up there and show you in just a second. So they went from O they went from O to H to L to C to D to E to R, back to G, and back to O. Wherever you start with, you have to come back to. Alright, so if I would set up those coordinates, it would look like, and remember how I said X, if X is 0, Y is 0 here. Anything that goes to the left, that's left of the center line, the distances would be negative. Our Y is usually always, if we start 0, is always going to be a positive. So for the coordinates for the O was 0 and 0. And then the X and Y for H was a negative 15 and 0. Because remember, you're going to go to the left, so it's negative 15. I'll show you. So in other words, this is still on the X axis, so it's still 0, but your distance is a negative 15. Now when we go up to the L right here, our X is going to be a negative 33.8 and our Y is going to be a 12.5. And remember the formula, it's always going to be 2 area equals this. So we have to put our coordinates. So if you'll list all your coordinates, X and Y, and then this time what they did is the solid lines, which is X to 0, they put them over here. It works either way. And then their Y, I made them as the dashed lines. They put these on the plus here. And then remember the formula is 2 area. So if I look at the first one here, and you always, wherever you start at, you always have to come back around. So you don't forget to add the last one where you start all the way back around. So if I'm looking at this, 0 and 0. Okay, so 0 times 0 is 0. A negative 15 times a 12.5. Well, if you get that, and because they say it's a minus, they're saying a minus and a minus is a plus. So they said a negative 15 times a 12.5, and that I got a negative 187.5. They went ahead and did a negative and negative. Negatives minus would make it a plus 188. The next one would be a negative 33.8 times your 15.8. And that would make it a positive. And I got 534.04. And this would be a negative 20 by 18. And that's got 334. And then I got a 0 times 10.1, so that's 0. 12 times 12.44, 12 times 12.22, which gives you a negative 146. A 33 times 0 and a 15 times 0 is all zeros. And then when you come to the back side, we're now going to say a 0 and 15, 0. A 0 and negative 13 or negative 33.8 is 0. A 12.5 times a negative 20. 12.5 times a negative 20. 250. And they called it, and of course they're put negative. So if you total those up, and when you total up your pluses, they got a plus 485. And for the minuses, they actually got a plus 436. If you add those two together, because that's what you're going to do, you get a total of 1421. But remember the formula is 2 area equals, so you have to divide that by 2. If you get a negative area, you just drop the negative off, because an area can't be negative. So that's a quick overview of simple figures and then area by coordinates. So if there's any other questions on these problems and you want help, just shoot me an email and we'll work it out.